Joining us on the Newsmakers line from the Thomas Jefferson Institute, author of a great piece called Let Them Eat Cake, and discussing some of the tone deafness that, bless their little hearts, just walks the halls of our government, is Chris Braunlich. Chris, good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning, Joe. Good, very good.
Is it you've done this for a couple of cycles through the sun, do you still wake up and think, my gosh, I never thought they could have topped whatever the last thing was that they have to top? But this piece you have on now, is it Subramium? That said that it was confronted about school choice and had just some of the most tone-deaf things to say?
Well, yeah, it was, and I've actually been doing this for a couple of decades around the sun. Yeah, I mean, he basically said there was a hearing last week in the House Education Subcommittee, and there were more than a dozen parents and community leaders, black parents, black community leaders, begging literally to say, look, you know, education is not about black and white. It's about yes or no. It's about good or bad. And our kids are not doing well in these schools. Some of it was academic. Some of it was simply safety. Now, these were kids that did not feel safe in the schools. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the delegate basically said, well, you know, parents have choice now. They can send their kids to private school. Well, no, they can't. We're talking about parents and children who are from low-income areas who don't have choices. And who are begging for scholarships. One woman was able to get a scholarship through the Education Improvement Scholarship Tax Credit, which is underfunded, which is a private operation. But, you know, they don't have those choices. They don't have the choices they do in his district, which has a median household income of $125,000. But they just rambled on about it. Mm-hmm. And the reason is, I understand I understand the reason why. The reason why is because the teachers union in Virginia, not teachers, but teachers union, basically does not want kids to have choice. And
sure.
They will fight it at every step of the way.
Which is so sad in this, Chris, and I think you and I have talked about this privately and at some events we've been at together, that, you know, really the rank and file teacher, if there's school choice, they're going to be the powerful ones. They're going to be like that star wide receiver at the end of an NFL championship run. He's going to have all the power over what his contract's going to look like.
Well, he will, unless he's allowed the teachers union to have it. We need to remember that one of the things they're doing in Virginia is that the unions are trying to get collective bargaining so that there'll be monopoly union contracts wherever they can get them. And that excellent teacher won't have the option for better pay, won't have the option for better working conditions, won't have the option to be able to do things that are necessary to help kids, because they're going to be locked into a contract that basically says, all right, we'll take it to the lowest common denominator.
Well, and you look at this horrific revelation out of Newport News that the school had been, you know, warned that this teacher, who I come to find out is from Greene County, or at least lived in Greene County, went to Greene County schools for some of her life, and blessedly is recovering at home, and thank God for that, you know, had gone to the school administrators and said, hey, this kid's in trouble, and yet the administrators, part of this bureaucratic approach, turned a deaf ear, didn't want the paperwork. I don't know, how do you turn your face away from somebody who wants to burn a teacher up and watch him die?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly the school should have done more, but I having been on a local school board, having been in expulsion hearings, having dealt with the interface with federal law under Individuals with Disabilities Act, that you have to provide services to students. Now, where I was, that student, I suspect, would have, if they have a disability, and the parents say they do, would have been taken out and provided one-on-one counseling, one-on-one educational instruction, because you can't deny them that instruction. Mm-hmm. But so I think there's a lot yet to come out about all of that.
Sure.
And we all
well said.
just praying for the teacher right
Yeah,
now, and
absolutely.
frankly praying for the kid. He's got problems.
Well, absolutely, and I mentioned this even after Parkland. I said, a kid that gets to that point where they're doing their own life, and even if it's not physically, they are as much a victim of this hate that has been woven into them. Chris Braunlich is on with us from the Thomas Jefferson Institute, and thomasjeffersoninst.org is the website. I've got to ask about the school choice issue, and we just had Senator Mark Peake on. And it seems like this is just going to be a station-keeping General Assembly session. Everything that comes out of the Senate will die in the House. Everything that comes out of the House will die in the Senate. And that's a sad state of affairs. But one of them is fascinating to me is in this school choice debate. I have had several listeners send me emails coming from Marie March's supporters saying she's calling you out, calling the Virginia Education Opportunity Alliance a bunch of rhinos, and what do you say about it? And I'm trying to stay out of it, but it seems like the bill she's supporting just gives more power to the government bureaucracy to determine what kids could access school choice or not, where 1508, though it does have the blind spot of the fact that kids already in some sort of non-public education may not be able to access it, and I'm hoping the Lieutenant Governor is true about fixing that blind spot, is actually the parent says, I want to do it, and the government can't say boo about it.
I actually haven't read Delegate March's bill, so I don't know the provisions that you're talking about. I do know that, it is true that students that are already out of public school wouldn't be able to access the education success accounts as currently written under the HB 1508. But you've got to start somewhere. You're taking on 100 years of entrenched entrenched power, and you have to start somewhere. My analogy is if you wanted to make Virginia like Florida, Texas, or New Hampshire and not have an income tax, you wouldn't start by saying we're going to reduce it right away to zero. You would start by lowering it over time, and I think that's the way we need to go with this. Mm-hmm. To allow all students immediately to access it is a $500 million proposition, and I think that there are a lot of fiscal hawks in the Republican Party that would have a problem with that.
Well, it's going to be an interesting coalition build if the GOP gets a majority after the 2023 election cycle. Chris, what's coming up at the Thomas Jefferson Institute? I love this Let Them Eat Cake column, by the way. Please go download, share it with your friends.
And frankly, if folks want to see the testimony itself that I talk about in that column, it's on our YouTube page. You can go to youtube.com and search for Thomas Jefferson Institute, and you'll find it. It's up front. We loaded it up over the weekend. It's 18 minutes of really gut-wrenching testimony from parents. One mother whose son committed suicide because he was bullied. Another one who was bullied, and she was finally able to get him out of the school. Community leaders, former Richmond school board member who said, we need to get choices because not all schools are good. An admission that I think is more school board members need to make around the state. It is well worth it. Today we issue a report on Steve Hayner, who I think you've had on before.
Oh, yeah.
Issues a report on a new bill that's up from Dominion Resources that allows Dominion to have a partnership in the wind farms that they're constructing off the coast of Alaska. But we don't know who the partners are, and we don't know a lot of answers about that bill.
Funny that we'll have to reach out and get Steve back on the program about that, because that's just a fascinating bugaboo going on. And I thought it was going to get better, and then it seems like it's back. Resurrected the zombie legislation. But Chris, thank you for everything you guys do at the Thomas Jefferson Institute, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.